Good morning, everyone. Let's start with the third part of September 2022 magazine from Vision IAS. Third article: Internal Party Democracy. Why it is in use? Election Commission is pushing for the internal democracy within political parties in India. About internal party democracy. Internal democracy in the political parties, also known as intra-party democracy. It refers to the levels and methods of including party members in the decision making and deliberation within the party structure. It helps to nurture the citizens' political competencies and producing more capable representatives in the terms to ensure that the party produces better policies and political programs. In India, there are no explicit provisions in the constitution that lays down the guidelines for regulating conduct of political parties in India. Only Section 29A of the Representation of People's Act in 1951 mandates the registration of political parties. Refer the infographics. The Election Commission of India is not equipped to regulate the functioning of political parties. Need for internal party democracy in India. Ensuring equal representation. The procedure for determining the leadership and composition of the parties are not completely open and inclusive. This adversely impacts the constitutional rights of all citizens to equal political opportunity to participate in politics and contest the elections. To prevent the dynasty politics. The lack of intra-party democracy has contributed to the growing nepotism in political parties. Data suggests that all MP below the age of 30 in 15th Lok Sabha are from political families. To reduce the criminalization of politics, as there is no well-defined process for the distribution of tickets to the candidates with the adequate social and financial resources are given primacy. This led to the problem of candidates with criminal background contesting elections. Decentralization of power. Every political party has a state and local body unit, and election at each level will allow the creation of power centers at different levels. This will facilitate the decentralization of the power and decision making. Healthy functioning of democracy. As the political parties are most crucial actors of the independent democracy, their democratic functioning, transparency and accountability becomes inextricably interlinked to the health and vibrancy of the democracy. Challenges for setting up inter-party democracy. Internal party democracy. Inadequate power with the Election Commission. In case of National Congress versus Institute of Social Welfares and others 2002, Supreme Court held that ECI cannot take punitive actions against registered political parties for violating principles of inner party democracy. Absence of credible regulatory framework. There is no legal ground on which election can be mandated within the political parties. Stringent anti-defection laws. The anti-defection laws of 1985 requires party legislators to act according to the party whip. It is therefore deters them from voting in the national and state legislature according to the individual preferences. Resistance by drastic caste and regional parties and religion parties. Most of the parties are openly caste or religious based, and also their finances are dubious and opaque. Elitism in parties. Leadership in the political party is mostly decided by the coterie of the party functionaries who holds the sway over party's administration. The way forward. Constitutional status to the parties. Political parties can be given constitutional status. For example, Germany gives constitutional status to the political parties. As per its law, their internal organization must conform to the democratic principles. Proper rules. There should be a specific provision in the constitution, rules and regulations, memorandum of party regarding the organizational elections at different level and the periodicity, such as election and the terms of office bearers. Internal elections for the leadership positions. This should be carried out through debates, campaigns, meetings, and discussions within the party. A responsible body within political parties can solve this problem. For instance, in UK, the Conservative Party has a central council and an executive committee which elects its presidents and the chairman and vice chairman at its annual meeting. Empowering ECI to deregister the political parties that fail to comply with the rules. State funding of the political parties. This could bring the equity and accountability among the parties. Implement suggestions from the committees, etc. Committees like Dinesh Goswami Committee, the Tarkunde Committee, Indrajit Gupta Committee has strongly argued for more transparent working of the political parties in country. 1999 Law Commission report strongly recommended the introduction of regulatory framework for governing the internal structure and inner party democracy of the political parties. Draft Political Parties Registration and Regulation of Affairs Act 2011. It aims to regulate the constitution, functioning, funding, accounts and audit and the other affairs of the political parties in the election. Law for political parties in India. First is it's extra constitutional bodies. Second, Section 29A of 5 of Representation of Peoples Act 1951. There on the only major statutory provision dealing with the political parties in India. It orders that the political parties shall bear the true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of India as by law established and to the principles of socialism, secularism and democracy, and to uphold the sovereignty, unity and integrity of India. ECI requires that the party application should be accompanied by the documents and the information related to the organizational structure of the party, powers and the functions of its organ, and the method of appointment, details of all office bearers with the process of their election. Now let's cover Article number 4, Corporate Social Responsibility Amendment Rules 2022. Why it is in news? According to the recent notification issued by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, the government has amended rules governing the corporate social responsibility (CSR). Changes brought by the amendment rules. Establishment of CSR committee for unspent CSR amount. Companies can set aside the unused funds for CSR in the designated accounts as long as they could use them within 3 financial years. Its utilization is to be monitored by CSR committee. The change in expenditure for impact assessment. The amendment rules provide the cost of social impact assessment, which can be considered as CSR spending, but it cannot be greater than 2% of all CSR expenditure for the applicable financial year or rupees 50 lakh, whichever is higher. Revised format for the annual report on CSR activities. The amendment rule provides for a new format for the annual report on CSR activities. For instance, the companies will have to give brief explanation of its CSR policy, information about members of CSR committee, and the web links for the impact assessment of the CSR projects. Corporate Social Responsibility (CSR) and its significance. CSR requires certain companies to mandatorily spend at least 2% of their average net profit immediately preceding 3 financial years on CSR activities under Section 135 of the Companies Act 2013. The company having net worth of rupees 500 crore or more, a turnover of rupees 1000 crore or more, or net profit of rupees 5 crore or more. The foreign companies having the branch offices or the project office in India fulfilling the criteria mentioned above. The qualifying company will be required to constitute a CSR committee consisting of 3 or more directors. Challenges faced in implementation of CSR. Geographical bias. Firms tend to fund those projects which are closer to the area where they are based. This results in the industrialized area getting preference over the poorer and underdeveloped areas that are more in need of some development and aid. Lack of reporting. Most of the firms do not mention the exact amount of expenditure spent by them on CSR activities, and hence it becomes difficult to estimate the exact amount of funds spent by the firms. Spending skewed towards some areas. Of the 9 different schedules prescribed by the Companies Act 2013, 2 schedules combating various diseases and promotion of education accounted for 44% of total CSR expenditure, while reducing the child mortality received no funding, and eradicating extreme hunger and poverty received only 6% of total CSR expenditure. Lack of community participation in CSR. This largely attributed to the limited awareness about CSR and minimal outreach efforts by the companies. Issues of transparency. The companies have complained that there exists lack of transparency on the part of local implementing agency, as they do not make adequate efforts to disclose the information on their impact assessment, utilization of funds, narrow prescription towards the CSR initiatives. NGO and government agencies usually possess a narrow outlook towards the CSR initiatives of the companies. Often, CSR initiatives are defined being more donor driven than the local approach. As a result, they find it hard to decide whether they should participate in such activities at all in a medium or long run. Way forward. Embrace the participatory approach with the communities and NGOs. Companies should engage with the NGOs and communities as a partners across the program design and implementation. Prioritize the marginalized populations within the existing program by explicitly taking efforts for the communities such as scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, women, and or the people with disabilities. Hire a professional CSR team. Companies should hire a professional CSR team that bridge the corporate and social sectors and create the advisory boards with the expertise that complements to the corporate boards. Involving the beneficiaries in CSR spending. CSR spending could be discussed and deliberated so that awareness is generated among the stakeholders. Poor people and those living in the deficient conditions for whom CSR spending was instituted. Dedicated department. There could be a dedicated department of CSR in the Ministry of Corporate Affairs at the central level and one at the Finance Ministry of the state. Spending by companies through CSR. During the period of 2014 to 15 to 2020 to 21, companies spent around rupees 1.9 lakh crore towards the CSR activities. The reporting rate among the eligible companies in the last 4 years has been 64%. Significance of CSR for companies. It bolsters the brand image and increases the customer loyalty. It enhances the access to capital and markets. It attracts new talent, employee retention, and better productivity. It better risk management and reduce systematic risk. It minimizes the environmental impact. For local community, better income and employment opportunity based increased standard of living, promotion of indigenous culture, empowerment of minorities and women. For government, speedy and smooth attainability of sustainable outcomes, free up existing resources and harness new resources through the partnership, enhanced public welfare and trust. Thank you. In next part, we will cover all the news in short related to this topic. Thank you. See you in next video.